Hello YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy GZTV back with another video, and if there's music in the background, I apologize. Yeah, someone's jamming out in the shower, but yeah, we have time to shoot a quick episode. I'm in the process of posting my VOD from the Superstar mode yesterday. And by the way, you guys are showing amazing support on the new Earl Sweatshirt Alchemist album review, so that's great. But yeah, let's just get into this episode. We're on the 21st episode of Season 11. That means we have 3 more episodes of this series left. 2 of those I'm going to watch throughout the weekend. And then we're going to do a finale episode thingy, next Friday. So, yeah, Sunday's episode, or this episode of The Walking Dead was titled Outpost 22, which turned out to be appropriate when the episode ended at Outpost 22. But what exactly goes on at Outpost 22? And how many times can one writer repeat the word, or how many times can one repeat the words Outpost 22 in a single sequence? We're going to answer those today. Well, we got a few answers to that first question, at least, thanks to the final scene, which showed a busload filled with Commonwealth prisoners like Negan, Ezekiel, and Kelly, who's played by Angel Theory. I guess I never said who played her character, but yeah, I mean, she was kind of introduced in the series a decent while ago. Arriving at the outpost while a radio dispatcher and a secret celebrity cameo. I'm not really sure who that was. Yvette Nicole Brown, they say. They explained that Outpost 22 is actually the hero's old home of Alexandria, now taken over and controlled by the Commonwealth, not to mention a very familiar voice. So, yeah, they took Alexandria, they turned it into some sort of outpost thing, and it's kind of crazy. It's a really interesting full circle moment that the writers allow this series to kind of have. But what happens at Outpost 22, and what is the purpose of the now occupied facility? We went to show, Angela Kang kind of answered some questions. She provided intel on that and other burning questions from the latest episode, while also sharing some teases as to what's coming next. So we're going to kind of discuss that. As Walking Dead fans, it's really cool to see kind of the creators of the show come together and provide some cool stuff. It went through a few iterations, so they think they had liked the idea of what would happen if one of their communities, the next time people saw it, had been transformed into something totally different. And if the community sort of represented freedom to the heroes, then what if you just flip that upside down? That's kind of like the thought process behind that. So that was an idea that they had all the way back in before this season even took place. Then it morphed along the way, and it wasn't going to be that, and for a while it was going to be the hilltop, and for a while it was going to be nothing at all. And then they came back around to it because it still makes for an interesting reveal. It also helped them budget-wise to use one of their sets. Jesus Christ. But it did originally come from a conversation they had really early on when they were talking about general ideas for the season. And then it somehow developed into it, but in a very different version from what they had started with. It morphed probably a half a dozen times, if not more, throughout the season. What exactly happens at Outpost 22 is what we're about to talk about. I think Outpost 22 is mainly where they keep a bunch of soldiers who are like Hornsby side soldiers, kind of, or Pamela side soldiers. These aren't the people that Mercer is working with day to day. They're out there because, in some ways, I think Commonwealth practice is a form of manifest destiny, where they're just let us spread out and take more things. So they create these outposts that are very secret to give them a foothold to figure out more stuff for themselves, to kind of plan to expand the community. And it's sort of a twist on Hornsby's genuine idea of imagine a future where everything is connected and you can just travel back and forth they kind of used to in the old world, and how we do in the normal world. That's the most positive version of this vision, but it's a little dystopic because clearly they took it by force from the people. So it's a military outpost, but I think they've also sent some of our folks who were causing trouble in the Commonwealth there. It's pretty much like a troublemaker's island. They're well, we don't want that to be on our walls, so it's kind of a prison colony right now, but also it's those people helping kind of expand everything. The Commonwealth is clearly a massive operation, and now we're seeing all these outposts and labor camps. It seems almost impossible the CRM would not be aware of them all. We can talk about any connections to the CRM we're going to see in these last few episodes. She couldn't get into the CRM. Information about the CRM is in the Walking Dead Chief Content Officer Scott M. Gimple's camp. she said that it did not come up in conversation though. They did talk about the fact that once you start getting into certain parts of the country with the CRM, they have helicopters. The CRM is mysterious in their ways, so they don't know why they chose to involve themselves in certain things and why they chose not to involve themselves in certain things. But they're aware there are groups out there. You know, you're kind of thinking about this, and there's history on the show of parents not being able to kill their zombified children, which brings us to Maggie having flashbacks of Herschel being taken from her as she sees this zombie boy coming towards her, and she picks up a rock and can't bring herself to kill him, and then later holds him for a while before saying she's sorry and finally finishing him off. There's an interesting thing there. We can kind of talk about that too. I think one of the things that I've always found really interesting about the show and about the comics is that Robert Kirkman's take on zombies is so unusual, because in most things the zombies are just the monsters, and you obviously kill monsters. It's interesting that in the world of The Walking Dead there are these constant reminders that there are people who got sick and it's a tragedy that they died, and it's horrific. It's not like they're just monsters that just spawned out of nowhere. It's like these were actually people, they had a past life, and yeah, you feel bad for that. And so there are those moments where it's like, cool, let's just blast apart these zombies and have monster movie fun. But there are these moments where even for our really hardened survivors and villains, there are times where you're reminded of the fact that they went through their own version of a horrific pandemic-like thing. We don't exactly know what it was, but all these people who are innocents, they're just gone. You know? When it comes to the child zombies, there's a horrible story behind it. You know that with this child, there are either parents that were left behind that are horrifically grieving, or if the child zombie is still alive, probably the parents perished first. It's just sad, and there's no way around that. And for some of our villains, they turned into something really twisted where they couldn't let go. But for Maggie, who has that child that's out there, it becomes this sort of unnerving reminder of what could be happening to her own child. And so even though we've sometimes explored things like it, felt interesting to do it with Maggie. I mean, her kid has been pretty safe, all things considered. She's done a good job making sure that he's been taken care of her through babyhood and even on her adventures, but certainly they have gone through a lot of crap, so you know, you're really struck by the Carol and Maggie scene, because they've obviously been on the show together forever, and there have been plenty of scenes of them in a group together, but I feel like we don't get a ton of scenes of just these two like we may get with Maggie, or with a Carol and Daryl, or Maggie and Negan. Maybe that's why they paired them up here. I mean, yeah, it's really interesting, because a lot of people are like, well, all I want to see Daryl and Carol together. It's just the dynamic duo of the show. That's my pairing. I want to see them every episode, which is not even possible because every actor has a different contract, so some people are more episodes and some people are not, and that affects what storylines they're in. But we do think it's important from a writing standpoint to show that there are other friendships and other relationships, even if they're ones that they don't focus on as much. Like, for example, Eugene and Rosita are always great together, and they have such an important... Rosita's played by Christian Serratos and Josh McDermott, respectively. They're always great together, and they have such an important, long-standing relationship. But Rosita has her own life outside of her friendship with Eugene, and Maggie has her own life outside of her nemesis relationship with Negan, and Carol has her own life outside of whatever thing she's got going on with, Daryl or Ezekiel. They realistically can't always be seen together because they have other things to tend to. So they definitely were feeling like, man, we're getting to the end, and we haven't gotten to really do something meaty with Carol and Maggie together for a while. So let's give them some scenes, because that's just something we're craving writing. And so they do often think that way, like, what have we not seen in a long time? What have we never seen, or what have we not seen in a while that we miss? And then we just kind of go from there. That's why some certain characters are kind of tied in together. The episode ends with Maggie saying, we are going to get our kids, take back our home, and make it right. What is it? We can talk about what that means, what you can say about the next episodes. It means that now that a good portion of our gang is kind of back together, they're going to go with weapons and guns blazing and all their smarts and all their power with intent, and they're going to try to solve this problem. And so there's this very visceral thing of, we have to get our children back and we have to get our friends back, as well as just kind of this overarching thing of, what do we do about this problem with Pamela? So they're going to go at it hard, but of course it's The Walking Dead, so things are not going to be so easy. There's going to be some stuff that they have to overcome in the next episode, and things get pretty intense. So, yeah. We'll have to see how they handle things, how they kind of take authority. That's the showrunner, Angela Kang, kind of giving us her perspective of the show, as she's kind of running things. And yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. Gonna enjoy a day at the mall. It's a weekend, that sort of thing. So